Welcome back, everybody. Ecom Dispensary Knowledge Drop number 32, episode number 130, 130. In this one, we're talking about what do your customers already know? So, this is something that I've been thinking about a bit more recently as we've been testing new stores and new products and stuff. What we're about to talk about is not necessarily a new concept by any means, but it's something that I definitely didn't learn about probably within the first at least 6 months to a year of doing ecom, and I think it could have been pretty helpful. I think it's a good concept to know about in terms of marketing. Um, it's basically the 5 levels of awareness. This is talked about in the legendary book Breakthrough Advertising by Gene Schwartz, and more recently in that I've read, the book Great Leads, which basically this episode is kind of taken from. I went through my notes for the book, and a lot of the stuff in here is directly from that. Great book. Highly recommend that everyone read that book. Basic concept is that in any marketing that you're doing, it's really important that you take into account what your customer already knows about the market, about the product, about their problem, about the solution that you're providing. Based off of where someone's at and how much they know, your marketing is going to be different for that. It's just like anything else in life. If someone has no context and, say you're explaining to them, I don't know, you're explaining to them, like I'm explaining to someone something golf related. If they have absolutely no idea, if they've never heard of the game of golf, I'm going to have to go through and give a lot of context, and I'm going to have to explain a lot of basic things in order for them to understand, say like yesterday, I'm going to brag here a little bit. I played some golf yesterday. I holed out for eagle from about 60 yards. Just great shot. Just incredible, honestly. If you've never played golf, that what I just said probably isn't going to make a whole lot of sense to you. You're like, eagle, what's eagle? Like, what's a hole out? Maybe you understand what 60 yards is, but someone who plays golf, they're going to understand that. I'm not going to have to give them any context. And this is kind of how it works in marketing. If you're explaining to someone who's never heard of golf before, if you're saying what I just said, your marketing is not going to resonate to them because they just don't have the context. They don't understand what you're talking about. And vice versa, if someone already does have that context and you're going through and giving a bunch of really basic info that they already know, it's not going to be interesting to them. It's not going to resonate with them. And so essentially, to make your advertising the most effective, you really have to understand where your customer is at, what they already know, and then that can help you better inform to write better copy, to just basically say things and do things in your marketing that are really going to resonate with people and make them want to buy. So that's the basic concept. Scotty, have you read the book Great Leads?
I have not. It has been on my list.
I know Josh has.
Yep, a lot of people have. It's supposed to be really good, but I've not read it.
Yeah, great book. I think it's Breakthrough Advertising is obviously where a lot of the stuff originally comes from, but I think Great Leads, Breakthrough Advertising was written a long time ago. It can be a bit dense and a bit difficult to understand if I'm being completely honest. Great Leads puts it in a bit more simple terms that are a bit easier to understand. So we want to walk you guys through kind of this concept, these different levels of awareness, and how this applies to e-commerce and how you can use this to make better ads. So there's basically 5 stages, 5 levels of awareness. There's most aware, and then this is going in order of from most aware to least aware. So you have most aware, then you have product aware, then you have solution aware, then you have problem aware, and then you have just completely unaware. So it's just a pretty, I don't know, I think this is a pretty intuitive concept. Most aware are going to be customers who already know you. They know of you, your brand. They've probably bought from you before. You guys who are listening to this in terms of our business of Blue Ocean, you guys are the most aware customers. You guys know who we are. You know what we're about. You bought from, obviously if you're here, you're subscribed to the Ecom Dispensary, you bought from us before. You guys listening to this are very aware customers. So, this has also been something that we've struggled with when we've in the past tried to do paid advertising stuff for Blue Ocean. In that case, everything that we've done for the most part is marketed to a very aware audience. It's, most of you guys found us organically through YouTube or through Twitter, something along those lines. And when we've done paid advertising before, it's a lot different because we're marketing to people who have never heard of us before. and they don't really know what we're about. And it's a very different thing selling information to warm traffic versus cold traffic. So just kind of a little aside there. Going to go more into like what kind of makes sense for very high awareness customers here in a second, but that's most aware.
Interestingly, there to add this, which is only vaguely related to with the rest of this episode, we were doing cold traffic advertising, but I got the feeling that a lot of our sales were from people who were at least somewhat aware of us. So it's like we're targeting cold on Facebook and we're showing our ads to however many thousand people a day. But the people actually clicking and buying at the end of the day, I think a lot of those people were people who either regularly watched your videos or had at least seen you on YouTube before. So although you're advertising to cold, people in that audience, it's just cold in the sense it's not retargeting. It doesn't mean that they're entirely unaware of who you are. When you get someone like, I don't know, Tai Lopez running a cold ad, like there's no cold advertising for Tai Lopez. Everyone knows who he is, at least in the space.
Yeah.
So like most like product awareness, solution awareness, most aware, this continuum is separate from cold and warm traffic. Cold and warm traffic is just a targeting option on Facebook. But even in cold traffic, you definitely have people who are most aware in that bucket, at least some.
That's an interesting distinction. I kind of agree. I mean, I think that they're pretty connected, but there's definitely exceptions. So
Yep.
beyond that, that's most aware. The next stage is product aware. This is when your customer knows what you sell, but they're not quite sure if it's right for them. What's really important in this stage is to build trust. So they've maybe seen your ad before, or they are aware of the general type of product that you sell, but they just are kind of like on the fence. That at this stage, I think this is, I don't know. I don't want to say that any of these are necessarily easier or harder to sell to, because it really just depends on what you're doing. But I think someone in this stage, I don't know. I almost think it would be a little bit easier, but that's product aware. Solution aware is when they don't actually know about your product necessarily, but they do know that they have a problem and that there are solutions out there to their problem. People like this probably need a bit more education, and they need to know, and they want to basically feel like you understand exactly what they want and need. So people like this, I'm trying to think of like an example off the top of my head for like a piece of context for this stage. You have anything off the top of your head, Scotty?
I do, but let's run through all the stages first.
Okay. So after solution, you have problem aware. This is when your customer only knows the frustration of the problem that he is trying to solve. And the key in this stage is to really sympathize with the customer. And it's kind of similar to the last one, but a little bit different, that you want to really show them that you feel their pain. In solution aware, you kind of need to show that you understand what they want. In problem aware, you have to show them that you understand their pain, their problem, whatever it is that they're struggling with, that you can help them solve. And then finally, the last stage is just unaware. This is when they don't really know anything. They don't really even understand that they have a problem, or that there's a solution, or that there are products out there that can help them solve that. They're just kind of like, they have like a general angst, some sort of worry, that they have like a general uneasiness, but they can't like really quite put their finger on it. In this stage, I think the best route is to be a bit more indirect and not go straight into, hey, I'm selling something, buy it. Because if someone doesn't even know that they have a problem, if you present them with a solution to a problem, if they don't know they have it, then it's not really going to resonate with them.
It's like products to improve your gut biome, whereas like your gut bacteria is messed up. You first need to teach them and somehow hook them in with a claim that hits them when they're entirely unaware that the gut biome exists and is important.
I like that example.
I think most successful ads ever run direct response wise. In terms of the example, I think we had a really interesting sort of progression in one of my businesses with Sleek Ink, which we've been running for, I want to say, 2.5 years now.
Has it really been that long? Wow.
I think so. Yeah, 2.5 years. Where we went from, at first when we started it, there was like one or two other products on the market that promise the same thing, which is your tattoos are fading, bring your tattoos back to life with our skincare product. At the time, people were very skeptical. They knew of the problem. Everyone knew of the problem. Tattoos fade over time. And the marketing, Jesus Christ, marketing was very much based on tattoos are fading, but there's something you can do about it, yada, yada, yada. It was all about the fade, which is the problem that people were aware of. People were not yet aware that there was a solution for this. So you had to present your solution and overcome the skepticism, overcome people's skepticism essentially. As time went by, you kind of noticed different ads are now working because not just us, not just our one or two competitors, but there's more and more competitors popping up all the time, all trying to solve the same tattoos are fading. My skincare product will help alleviate that. So people became aware that they knew they had the problem, and now they're aware that there's a solution to that problem. And you no longer have to convince them that there's skincare products that will make your tattoos look better. You now need to convince them why your skincare product perhaps is better than other skincare products, if that makes sense. And for us, we were selling tattoo oil. Like nobody searches for tattoo oil. Nobody is looking for tattoo oil. They're looking for a solution to the fading tattoo problem. I think that's probably kind of the stage we're still in. People are solution, they know the problem, but they're also solution aware. They know there's a solution to this problem, but they're not really yet product aware, although I think they're heading that way. Product aware to me would be, for our context, is that people know the problem, they know there's solutions for it, and they know there's tattoo oil. They're specifically looking for a tattoo oil, and then they'd be looking for a best tattoo oil. So then the ads would perhaps more cater towards what is the best tattoo oil for my needs. We're not yet there. I think people are still looking for a solution. They're not looking for a tattoo oil specifically yet. But as more and more products pop up that are specifically oil products, I think we start to move towards that.
Yep. I like that. I like that. I think that's a really great example. And it's very interesting because it just depending on what you're selling, it's going to be different. Now, I think I'm curious what you think about this, Scotty, but I think a lot of ecom products are, for the most part, going to be kind of in the product aware stage. Most products that you're going to sell probably aren't like something crazy or new that people have never even really seen before. So I think, I don't know. I think most of the examples that I can think of anyway are going to be in the product aware category.
Can you make an example?
I mean, let's say like something that I've seen, everywhere is like those comforting dog beds. I mean, they're basically dog beds, but the angle is that, they reduce puppy anxiety. I guess maybe that could be solution aware, but I mean, every dog owner knows that dog beds exist,
Yeah. I mean, I think with a lot of problems, yeah, I mean, a lot of products certainly are product aware. I would argue some are even just problem aware, where if you're marketing towards like, especially if you're doing things the way we promote, where you start with a market, you might start with a market of back pain and you present a new solution that people aren't aware of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean that's like one of the biggest markets, like most established of all time.
Yeah.
Um,
And I think also as you go from product aware to solution aware to problem aware, the market gets bigger and bigger,
yep.
but also less specific and it's a harder sale the further along you get. I also think this, for example, is why on my brand Sleek Ink, our conversion rate went from like sub 1% to like 5+% over the years, because people started off super skeptical of our claims and we had to really convince them to give it a shot. Whereas now they're already looking for a solution. Maybe they're already looking for tattoo oil even. And all we have to convince them is to give our solution a shot, which is a lot easier of a sale rather than overcoming that entire skepticism and proving that there's a solution in the first place.
Right.
But again, with problemware, your market's a lot bigger.
Yep. I mean, I think, I don't know. Again, it really just depends on the context, but I think the less aware people are, it tends to be a little bit easier. I think that that's probably one of the reasons that my first store with the Apple Watch straps worked out pretty well, because I think it was pretty unaware. Um, Apple Watches were fairly new at the time. You know, they'd only been out for a few years. There weren't a lot of other brands selling Apple Watch straps at that time, and the market was just like, I would say, I mean, they were either unaware or problem aware, because the kind of like the main angle that I was going with for that was like, your Apple Watch was expensive, make it look that way. So it kind of brought up a problem that maybe people didn't even realize that they had. Made them think like, oh, my Apple Watch doesn't look that good. Like, I didn't even really think about that. But now that I have that idea in my head, like, yeah, it kind of resonates. And then over time, now if you were to start this exact same thing and run the exact same ads, it probably wouldn't work nearly as well, because there's a lot more competitors selling the same product. People have kind of seen a lot of these offers, and they're much more aware at this stage. So I do think that it does tend to be easier the less aware people are.
Yeah, definitely can be. Yeah.
I think you just don't have to be as good at marketing to make it work. So definitely something to think about. I mean, I think that that's kind of like the ideal, is you're selling something where, I don't know, because I mean, with our main brand, like, that's definitely pretty aware. I would say that that's at least product aware.
Yeah, I think problem aware is harder to market. I think you need to be better at marketing.
Yeah.
Because with product aware, you just need a great offer. You need a
Yeah.
great offer and you need to not drop the ball.
Yeah. So that kind of moves us into like, how does this really apply specifically to ecom? I guess we've been talking about it in context of ecom the whole time, but if you're selling a product that is, a quote unquote saturated product, winning product, hot product, whatever you want to call it, or some other just like common product that's been around for decades that people generally know exists, the thing that, at least for us, that we found to be the most effective with that is just really focusing on the offer and just making it a really great deal. Because that's, the more aware people get, the more options there are out there. That's the thing that's really going to move people to want to buy. If you have just a better deal than most competitors, and if you just have a high quality product, you can kind of just focus on that. And I mean, obviously there's more that goes into it. Like, it's not just quite that simple, but I think that's one of the main reasons that our brand works so well.
Yep, 100%.
Whereas on the other hand, if you're selling something newer, like, when I was selling those Apple Watch straps, like, I wasn't putting the offer in the ad copy. The price was not even really, I mean, it was part of it, but it wasn't like a big thing that I was focusing on in my ads. The price point and the offer wasn't nearly as important, because when you're less aware, you're not really as concerned with that. When you're more aware, you already know about the product and you're really just looking for like the best one for you. Whereas when you're unaware, you don't even really know that there are other options. So if you see, something that's marketed well, it's probably just going to resonate with you, and you're not going to be thinking about, is this better than this other option? Or, like, I feel like people who are unaware don't tend to do as much research. Whereas people who are more aware, they might be searching on Amazon to look for comparable things. and just kind of trying to figure out what the best option for them is.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of the thing with awareness. We've touched on this at a pretty high, high level, basic level. I highly recommend that you pick up this book, Great Leads, and probably also Breakthrough Advertising if you haven't already. Definitely at least Great Leads, because it'll give you a lot more context for this and just show you, like, it goes into, very specific things about which headlines tend to work well depending on the awareness of your market. Just a bunch of other stuff that is, it's going to be a bit too much for us to cover in one episode, but definitely recommend that you pick that up. And then just generally speaking, just next time you're going to make a product page or you're going to make ads, think about what the people that you're trying to sell to, what do they already know? You might not be able to figure it out 100%, but you can kind of figure it out. Like, I feel like it's largely common sense. Like, it doesn't necessarily require all the time a whole lot of research. Sometimes it might, but you can kind of tell, I think, for the most part, once you get a decent understanding of these different levels of awareness, it's fairly easy to figure out for what you're doing, what kind of awareness level the people that you're selling to actually have.
Yeah. The thing to remember is that this isn't school. Like, your story or whatever you're working on is not going to fit neatly into one of these boxes most of the time. And this concept is a useful frame of reference to maybe troubleshoot your advertising, to maybe see where you might be going wrong, where you have a market that is problem aware and you're marketing to them as if they were solution or product aware. Perfect example being the 3 years ago us trying to say we have the best tattoo oil when people don't even know, like, people aren't looking for a tattoo oil, so they don't care if you're the best. You have to talk to them with what they're aware of. It's an important, like, frame of reference, but don't get caught up on trying to figure out exactly which box you fall into, because of course in any market there's going to be some people that are more aware, less aware. It's about using this concept to think about your marketing. It's not about which exact box you fit into, because again, it's not a school exam where the teacher decides which box your example fits into, and if you pick another box, it's just wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think within one market, you could have different subsections of people who are at different levels of awareness. And yeah, it's just not like a completely black and white thing. I think I've definitely made the mistake in the past thinking that it has to fall into one of these boxes, like, perfectly. And that's generally, I mean, just generally speaking in business and in life, that's just really not how things work. Things aren't always so black and white. So definitely keep that in mind. I think that's a good piece of advice to end this one off with.
Yep.
All right, folks. Well, that has been episode number 130. What do your customers already know? Keep this in the mind when you're making ads, making product pages, coming up with angles, all that kind of stuff. And I think that your ads will probably perform better. That is the whole goal. So that's been episode number 130. We'll talk to you guys in the next one.